My name is Sim. I'm a student at Sussex Uni.
I'm Amelia. I'm also a student at Sussex studying anthropology and international development.
And I'm Sarah and I'm a student at Brighton.
SEASALT stands for South East Students Autonomously Living Together. We are a student housing co-op set up just over a year ago. We set up in February last year. And it was the result of kind of us being like student housing is too expensive and not of great quality. And it was also useful because two of our previous student union officers, Aisling and Lindsay, they had kind of had it on their manifestos to set one up anyway. So me and Lisa actually met 3 years ago at a student co-op event, and so yeah, it just kind of went from there. We're trying to get funding to get a property in Brighton. We know the kind of thing that we're looking for. We're not going to go to self-builds. We want a house with lots of community space, with a garden, space for renewable energy.
The Community Land Trust has been a really big help to us so far, partly because they initially funded Lisa, who's been our paid member of staff, who, I think, is it 2 days a week? 1 day? 2 days a week? She has had time to really put energy into this project, and that's been such a great help. They've also been really useful with advice and support and telling us where to go if we need anyone, like an accountant we found out, and just pointing us in the right direction. They've also provided training, so obviously on our own at the university they don't really do much to do with co-ops, but we've been able to get involved with things like the sociocracy training that they've been running, and that's been really, really useful. And that's something that we've brought into our meetings, and yeah, so they've really helped us push forward with this project, and really believed in us, which has been a big thing, because obviously not many people are super thrilled to give students a large amount of money to buy a house, but they're really behind us, and they just believe so much in what we're doing and understand the value of the project to not just us as students, but to the community in general.
So financing the project has been a learning curve for us. Obviously we're all students, we're learning ourselves how to manage money, and sort of understanding grant funding opportunities and ethical loan options is all very, very new to us. We've never sort of come across this before. And I joined SEASALT a year into the project, so I haven't sort of been around for a lot of the initial stages of it. But I know that the group was thinking about crowdfunding for a while, but this was a problem because it's always difficult to raise money in time to buy a house before developers buy it. And community shares are also kind of iffy because the people who sort of buy the shares want to have a say in the development of the co-op. So we didn't really want that. We wanted to have our own control, make sure it's students in control of the property. So BHCLT have been really helpful in sort of training us financially and providing us with spreadsheet training, which has given us a lot of confidence in going into sort of creating investment prospectuses and applying for mortgages. We basically decided, with the help from BHCLT, to fund the project through donations and grant funding, and also through loan stock, which is an ethical sort of investment platform. Investors will lend money for periods of 5 to 10 or 15 years, and then they'll receive 0 to 5%.
Yeah, so from my point of view, I was working at Sussex Students' Union, and then I ended up getting involved in this, and I was super lucky that the Land Trust was around at that time, so I was able to then harness the funding that was available. I've learnt loads. I used to support the student housing, student-led co-ops at Brighton, so like food co-ops and bike, but I'd never managed a housing co-op before. And I feel like it's just been such a positive project. The students have so much energy, and we meet every week, and for a whole year there's been so much activity, and I think it really demonstrates that when you've got that energy and you really invest in it, it can be such a positive experience. We've done all sorts, so you can see we've got like marketing materials that we worked with Brighton University with, to develop those. We're going to talk about some of the site visits. So we've been to Birmingham, Edinburgh, soon went to Geneva to visit one where now there's 850 house members across the city. It started in 1986. So this is a pilot. The idea is that it's not just going to be one individual property, but that it's actually showing that students can manage this, and in the future it's going to pave the way for future student housing co-ops. So yeah, CLT have been instrumental really. I don't think any other student housing co-op has had that opportunity, so we're really taking like full advantage, learning as much as we can, but just showing that actually students are in such a good place because they have the energy, like the drive to do it, and that people should actually be able to live in this really good, positive way. So we're going to move on to the next section now, and talk about kind of what's gone well, and then some of the challenges we've had along the way.
Yeah, so in terms of things that have gone well, I've been part of the project since the beginning, so I've had the opportunity to visit quite a few student housing co-ops. Birmingham summer last year, Geneva in December last year, and Edinburgh in February this year. And I just want to touch on a tiny thing from each of those that I think was really important for me to witness personally, and all of us who went. When we went to Birmingham Student Housing Co-op, it's only 9 people, it's quite a small house, and I think something I saw that was so valuable over there was how much each member cared for each other, and how much of a community they fostered inside there, formally in terms of their meetings and their structures, but also informally they asked each other how they were doing and really got on. And it's kind of about, this isn't just a house of good quality. It's really you want to feel like you're part of a community and really combat student loneliness, which is a serious issue. We went to Geneva, which of course is massive. It really has a presence in the city. When you're thinking of student housing, one of the options is going to be the co-op. And something that I got to witness, meetings that they had, was how they engage with the community around them. Which it's easy to take for granted. It's easy to say, we're just going to stay inside our house and do the most within this. But they organise community activities. They have, in the summer when the weather's good, they have barbecues outside. They have gardening projects. They are a space for political organising in a lot of different ways that I'm not fully able to capture right now. They engage with their neighbourhood, and that's not something I've seen so much in my own housing in Brighton. All of these opportunities, I think, over the last year have helped me envision a house that I'd really like to live in, that I have full control over. I say I, all of us, everyone who lives in this place. And now, what has kind of been challenging?
Yeah, so we've definitely found the experience of looking for a property really tough, especially in Brighton, because houses are so expensive here. This is probably one of the hardest places that we could be doing this project in. But we've had so much help, and we've been very fortunate for that. And going to visit properties is an experience in itself, because we're going there with the incentive of owning this property, and I've never gone to property viewings before. I've never had to ask questions, sort of serious questions about damp and stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely a learning curve, and it's been really difficult because we want to try and get a house that's as big as possible, because we want to try and house as many students as we can. But often these houses are taken by property developers very quickly, and it's sort of a balancing act between trying to get the funding as soon as possible and knowing when to put the offer in on the house as well.
Yeah, it's a really hard thing, but I think in the midst of all, like, I think the community that we've built, even without property, is just incredible. And like it has like organically grown from a few people sitting and thinking this might be a great idea, to a group that's across both unis. It was originally based at Sussex, and now there's people from Brighton and Sussex, and just everyone who has such a drive to see this project to fruition, even though the majority of the people who are currently involved will never actually live in that property, because we're aware that the timelines are slightly beyond like the time that we've got left. I'm a master's student, but it's just incredible that everyone here just sees the value of it to the level where they're willing to put in so much time and so much energy into a project that, yeah, they're not going to personally benefit from. And I think that's something people don't realise that students are able to do, because I think it's a very short-term thing when you're a student, and it seems like very insular, but actually I think this project is such a great example of us looking outside ourselves and just being like, this is a great project for the student body in general, but also for the community, and this is something we really want to push forward with, even though, yeah, it is hard to find property, and yeah, and as Amelia said.
So yeah, just we, as everyone's mentioned, because it's so new territory, there's only 3 student-led housing co-ops in the UK. Birmingham set up in 2014. They've been going in America since the 1930s. Obviously, it's still relatively new here. Edinburgh's got the biggest with 106 students managing it, and then there's one in Sheffield. They all managed to get properties and then got a lease from the phone co-op and a housing association. And we're now looking into either the CLT buying property, but also because property's so expensive, we do need to do some fundraising as well. So all of that's new, so we're looking at social investors, getting investment prospectus together. So yeah, we're learning a lot as we're going for everybody. The whole community-led housing programme here is so new. So I think that's, yeah, kind of one thing. We've just got to kind of keep going at it and just learning and adapting as we go. But it's really exciting. I think if we can make it work here, it can work anywhere. So that's a really positive thing to take from it. We're going to move on to the last question now, which is all about like what we've learned. So each person's just going to say about what they've learned and what we're going to do next because of it, and how the kind of journey over the last year has maybe changed people's own kind of personal stories as well.
When I got involved in this, I was a final year student in neuroscience. I had done a neuroscience undergraduate. I got a little bit bored. I realised that I care a bit more about politics and economics and sustainability, so I went on to do a master's in sustainable development. SEASALT was very instrumental in me deciding to do that master's. And what I'd like to go on in the future is I'm doing a lot of my essays and my studying on things around the economics of land and housing and sustainable energy community groups. And those two fields really go quite closely together. That's the kind of area I'd like to go into. Quite a shift from neuroscience, I'd say.
Yeah, so I'm in my first year, so I've been doing a lot of learning and growing in this year. And joining SEASALT in first year has just completely transformed my experience of university. And it's going to shape the course of my whole future, I think. I've been surrounded by really inspiring people who are engaged with really important causes in Brighton, and if I hadn't joined SEASALT, then I probably wouldn't have ever met. And yeah, sort of adapting to the values of sociocracy has encouraged me to learn to speak my mind and own my opinions and understand that disagreements can be good. It can be an opportunity to build bridges.
So I have seen a lot of housing like co-ops when I was in the States. I lived there for a year, but I've never seen one start. And I think just seeing this process, how hard it is, how much you have to work for it, and all the challenges, has been really instrumental in understanding how important they are now. And just really taking this forward will be really important for me, because I don't think I'll be in Brighton forever, but I think setting up housing co-ops and knowing and learning how to do that is something that's just incredibly instrumental to wherever I end up. And yeah, just a newfound respect for these organisations that have been going for so long and have been doing so much great work in the community. Yeah, has been incredible to see.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I've learnt loads, business planning, financial planning, just tons, and it's always a learning process, so I feel super lucky to be involved. You know, at times it is challenging, but we've got an amazing team within me, and it's just, yeah, I think that's really the thing that's kept it going. Next, yeah, social investors, getting money, getting a property, and yeah, exciting times.
The biggest one that I can see is that in most housing co-ops around the city, even the people who are potentially putting their money in get on to live there. With students, we don't have money, but even if we did have money, we wouldn't be around forever. And so the financing mechanism for this reason is quite complicated. Yeah, so that's one thing. Another thing is, I see it as quite positive in that, like, every year or so, I say every year, this has happened once, September last year, we get a new turnaround of new members, and this really brings new energy into the group. We think of different things that we want to do. I'm so psyched that Sarah's made that zine, because the group last year, we wouldn't have thought that. Yeah, about housing co-ops.
Yeah,
it's creativity, right? Yeah, that's probably doesn't answer it, but a lot of ways, really.
Yeah, I think the positives outweigh the kind of work, because you have to kind of make sure things are future-proof more, so we really have to think about the processes, and it's like, well, how do we set this up so in the future it doesn't all fall apart? How do we make sure the rent arrears policy is so robust that people aren't going to stop paying rent, which happens in quite a few co-ops. So those kind of things mean you've got to really consider how it is for the future. People can stay 2 to 4 years, they can stay a year after graduation, so there's not a mass exodus, so they can actually, then have peer support. But I think, as Sim has said, it means that people don't end up staying maybe longer than they want to and getting stagnant, and that they have this amazing opportunity and they can see that and they put lots of time and effort in. So the one in Edinburgh has 4 times the number of applicants as there are spaces, so there's such a massive demand that the best students, the people who are most in need, but also the people who are willing to put time in. So you can't just want to live there, it's got to be that you are in need, but also that you're really willing and able to commit to it. And I think that's kind of the difference between some of the other ones. So yeah, I can only see it as a positive, really, because we've got so many new skills coming through the door, and yeah, all our policies have really adapted for that as well.
Brighton and Hove Community Land Trust supports groups of people who want to create their own community-led housing projects. Join us at bhclt.org.uk.